Hello, everybody. It is Monday, August 19th, and I'm Tony, and this is your New Work City's weekly Q&A. We've got a couple of new faces in the room today, so let's do a quick round of intros and just mention what's been going on, what you're up to next, and if there's anything in particular you're needing help with or that you're wanting to focus on today. It is an open slate, so whatever y'all want to talk about, this is your chance to get the collective brain help of all of us. So let's keep it kind of nice and quick and tight. Jen, do you want to start us off, and then we'll go to Kristen? Jen, how are things?
Sure. Good morning. I'm Jen Louie. I own Day House Co-working, which is in Highland Park, Illinois, north suburbs of Chicago. I'm a little discombobulated today because today was the first day of first grade in new school for my daughter, and I've been working on that, and now it's like, oh, right, and I was running a business. So, yeah, I don't even know, man. I'm like I said, I'm not focused this morning, so
that is
maybe this will get me focused.
Perfectly okay, Jen. It's good for you to acknowledge it, and congrats on the big day. It's a special day.
Yeah, she's never been on the bus before, so she went on the bus, and she was totally fine and went with two of her friends. And then as the bus pulled away, she looked at me with like this terrified look on her face. I was like, oh God, that was heart-wrenching. And one of my day house members is also at the same bus stop, so she saw that and she was also like, ah, oh my God. And then she brought me flowers. She's like, that was so traumatic. Here, have some flowers.
Oh my goodness, Jen. All right, so yeah, this is a good time for you to just acknowledge the intensity of your situation, and maybe in the course of this call, you can get yourself settled and get some inspiration for how to recenter yourself in terms of the business side of things.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that, Jen. Kristen, I'm turning to you. How are things in Denver? And tell us who you are and what's going on.
So speaking of recenter, my co-working space is called Recenter. We're not open yet. We don't even have a space yet, but I am visiting my third location later on this afternoon. So I'm super excited about that. Jen, I totally hear you. It was my kid's first day at school too. I have a second and a fifth grader. Luckily, we didn't have to put him on a bus though, but I got anxious just hearing about you putting your daughter on a bus. So I totally get it. And I think any other moms in the group get it too. So I'm working on my getting my name out there and setting up networking events to build the community before I open. That entails two separate pieces. One is not only finding the space for it, but also finding the people that can host the event, because each event is going to be sort of like not quite a lunch and learn, because it's not always going to be at lunchtime, but it's that sort of format that each gathering is going to have a host who's going to present on a topic like marketing for therapists or accounting for therapists or something like that. So I had 3 meetings with people who can teach those classes. So I have that set. I just have to find the location by Tuesday of next week. I'll have visited 3 locations and I should have that figured out. And then what I need from today is how to market on meetup.com if anybody's done that before. So I did register my name on Meetup and I did open an account. And funny enough, I haven't put anything in the account outside of the general description, and I've already had 3 people sign up for it, even though I don't even have events. So yeah.
Nice. Meetup likes to push new groups when they first start because they want to show you that they're providing value. So they might have like upped you in their algorithm or something,
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so we can talk a little bit more about that. That's a great topic, is meetup.com and the ways that you can focus specifically on that. Thank you, Kristen.
Thanks.
Cool. So, Agustina, you're joining us with Cocoa House in Puerto Rico on behalf of Mari. Welcome to the group.
That's so exciting that you're from Puerto Rico. I am too. Sorry. Okay, now.
Hi. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm calling in from Coco House. Marianne, couldn't make it today, so she asked me to join the call. It's actually my second week working here in Coco as an office manager, and I'm kind of new in Puerto Rico too. I'm from Argentina originally, so I moved to Puerto Rico 7 months ago, and I've been working with Coco for a week. So everything new, yeah. But I moved from Seattle, so kind of all over the place. But I love Puerto Rico, and I love the people from Puerto Rico and everybody here in Coco. So, yeah, and I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say today.
Excellent, amazing. So excited to have you along, Agustina. And really quick, can you tell us about the new program that Coco House just launched?
Yeah, that is the Coco Club, I think it's called. Yeah, the Coco Club. That's basically a networking membership, and it's $30 a month, and it's basically virtual, but the members can also join us once a week at the office. They can use our offices once a week, and they can have 1 hour of conference room usage, and they can have 50% discounts for any rentals they do. So it's a good opportunity for entrepreneurs in the community to get to know each other, and maybe if I'm not sure if they want to rent an office space, they can come and try it out.
Awesome. And do I understand, I saw in an article, Mari was talking about potentially having that grow beyond the physical borders of Puerto Rico, because she had mentioned going to these other cities and growing the network there. Is that true?
Yeah, I think that's something that she really has in mind. Of course, in the long term, might take a little while, but I think she really wants that. Yeah, especially South America.
One of the reasons that I'm focusing on this topic is because, well, first of all, it's really cool and it's exciting, but I love the emphasis that she has made on the value being provided in the network. That Coco House is not just a workspace, but it's providing value through a paid membership network, and that extends beyond the physical space. And that's a mantra that I always focus a lot on in these conversations. And so I'm thinking that what you all are working on with this network could be really valuable for the rest of us to follow along with. And for everybody else here, I'm gonna dig up the link to the article that I saw recently where Mari talks a little bit about this.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Agustina. Derek, I'm gonna unmute you now. There was a little bit of background noise. Do you want to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and what you're working on. Welcome to the group. You're a new member, so I'm excited to have you along.
Hey, Tony, how you doing? Hey, I probably need to be a little quiet on this vote, so why don't I give you more of an introduction next week when I join. Collabus Working Group is my co-working space. We're in the process of development, and so again, I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, looking to do a nationwide branding. However, so why don't I give you more insight next week when I'm in the confines of my office.
That sounds great, and I appreciate that, Derek. You got it. Welcome to the group. We're excited to have you along, and and enjoy your trip. I'm going to put you back on mute. All right, thanks, Derek. Penny, how are things going for you over in Erie? And is that a new hairdo? It looks nice.
Thank you. No, I just spent more time on it today. My hairdresser has instructed me if I really want it to look good, I have to spend more time, but thank you. Things in Erie, yeah, we launch on September 3rd, so things are going well. I'm actually sitting in my new space, which is the first time I've had a call with you guys in my new space. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. My daughter's here kind of decorating because she's really good at that. She's my right-hand person. So yeah, we've been working on a bunch of different things. We postponed, we were going to have an open house last Friday because I was going to be on vacation this week. Anyway, we postponed it by a week, and then we had a work party on Saturday, had 7 different people show up. And so we've had 2 work parties now, and it's been really helpful. And so then there's kind of some last minute details I'm working on, like big details. But I did decide not to use co-working space software. So the guy here in Erie, Sean Fedorko, who runs Radius Cowork, I talked to him, and he said, a lot of people don't even use co-working space software at the beginning. And he told me what he uses, and it seems like pretty decent. And the co-working space software was really a problem for me because, so keep in mind that I have 5 therapy offices, and so I've got to get people in and out of the therapy offices. Well, the co-working space software, I looked at 5 different products. You can't even do repeating appointments.
Oh yeah. I know you need that. You're going to need that badly for what you have. Yeah.
I do. And then some of them are kind of weird. So yeah, repeating appointments are definitely important. Because I'm going to want an office, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday mornings from 8 till noon, every week. I don't want to have to put that in each time. And then some of them like to book a meeting space. Nobody cares because you book 1 meeting space a month. So you don't care how fast it is. But to book a meeting space, you've got to click and you got to fill in all this information. It's cumbersome. So one of the basic things that I want, and then another weird thing about co-working space software is so this is August. And so I'm allowed to get a certain number of meeting room hours in August. And if I try to book ahead in September, it uses up my credits from August.
Ooh.
So I can't even book into September. So these are things that, obviously most people don't need. And the software wasn't accommodating me. So, you're Tony. Sean, yeah. I don't know why I keep thinking Tony, Sean, Alex. Anyway, Sean just said they don't even use co-working space software and they really don't need it. And he showed me what they use instead, and I'm going to go that direction. So it feels good to have that decision made.
Penny, hi, here's Sophia talking. What software do you look for that? Because I might run into a similar problem.
There's a couple different places, but basically the women who co-work on Facebook, right. They have, you can search on there. They've got some software discussions on there. And then, there's this whole co-working space kind of Google group, but then there's a subgroup, I guess it's on Facebook. There's a subgroup on Facebook. It's just for co-working space software. And you can get on there and you can ask questions. You can also search after everything else people have looked at. And then there's this one guy whose name is Hector, and he put together, it's called the Big Bodacious List of Co-working Space Software. And it seriously lists most of them, not apparently all of them, but it lists them. And then you can just get on there and make some comparisons. But then you really have to start demoing them to really know what you're after. So last week I demoed 5 of them to just kind of see and started to use them. So people showed them to me, and then you can get on and get a free subscription.
Which ones did you demo?
I demoed Proximity and Cobot and Office R&D and two that aren't on Hector's list because the woman who runs Soma Vida, she is not using co-working space software. She's using software that's made for the exercise industry, like people, the yoga industry. Yeah. And so I demoed 2 of those also, and I can't find my list right now.
Okay. That's okay. No, that's very helpful. Thank you. I'm going to mute myself now.
So Penny, which one did you decide, how are you scheduling then? What did you decide on?
I'm going to use Team Up.
And what is that? What's Team Up? Is it just
It's free or $8 a month. It's another thing that's kind of free or $8 a month or, more if you want it. But it's a way to share calendars with people. And it's used by teams, I guess, a lot. The guy that I work with, Sean here, he does a lot of research and stuff, whatever. I trust that Sean has looked all over the darn place, and Team Up was really, really good. And it's nice because you can allocate the rooms, each room's going to have a name or whatever. And then basically, then people can sign up for it. They can do repeating appointments. You can export the data because I'm going to want to be able to export it. It can be password protected if you pay, $8 a month instead of the free version. So I'm going to use Team Up. And like I said, I trust that Sean did a lot of research, and I do think it's going to be adequate. And then I'm also going to use Stripe. So for the membership, rather than using co-working space software for the membership, he uses Stripe. So in Stripe, you know, it's like Stripe, Square. I mean, I don't know, I thought they were all the same. But in Stripe, you can actually go in and you can put in your membership levels. So I'll have, you know, a basic membership level, and then a higher community level. And then I'll have, you know, user room 5 hours a week, and user room 10 hours a week, and user room 20 hours a week. And so within Stripe, I can define those levels. People can come in and put their information in, and then it'll automatically, not just bill them, it'll automatically pull money off their credit card every month.
So
what's the user experience like on the back end of that though? Like, do they go right? Do you link a button to like the Stripe? Like if someone's coming to your website, do you just link a button that says like purchased and it leads them into Stripe, or do they have to go to Stripe first?
I don't know yet. When I looked at Stripe's website last Friday, they can interface with your website. So I don't have that done yet. And so by this Friday, maybe I'll have it done, maybe not. But if I don't have it done, then I'll have my open house and people just have to sign up on Stripe. I assume I'll have some kind of a little platform on Stripe that hasn't interfaced with my website yet. I can sign them up there. They can input their own information, and I'm just going to use that. And hopefully by, you know, sometime soon we'll have it interfaced with my website.
So I'm gonna make this our first topic of discussion since we're already a few minutes in, and I just want to also formally say hello to Jessica and to Tanya and to Sophia. Welcome, nice to see all of you. I run New Work Cities on Stripe, and so I can tell you.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, at least from my experience, how it works, and.
Okay.
What I used to do and just how they compare. So starting with what I used to do, which is paid. Actually, I'll start with Stripe since we're talking about Stripe. As far as I know it, Stripe does not have a user-facing component. So it handles all of the back-end stuff, but it needs another service to handle the actual part where the customer is going to fill out a form and pay you the money. And so for that, there's any number of services that exist. You could probably find a WordPress plugin or, you know, whatever it is. I use a service called JotForm, and it's one of a million of these form-based services. And I pay for the premium, and it lets me create a form, and it will connect to Stripe's API. So when I'm logged in, actually should I do a screen share? I might as well.
Yeah. Sure.
All right, I'm gonna do it. All right. We all like screen shares, don't we? Screen shares are fun.
I do. It's interesting.
All right. So, in JotForm, I have a drag and drop kind of interface where I can very easily add different components, and what it will do is it'll give me the ability to add a component that is that's a payment plan. And so I've got this particular membership application, which I'm gonna edit. And of course, everything is running slower and not nearly as nicely as when I'm doing it by myself. But all right, so I can edit each of these fields. You can mess with how it's displayed. They have a bunch of different form elements, and they have a whole section for payments, so all the different ways that you can accept money. And specifically for Stripe, what happened is when I added this module, it gave me the ability to log into my Stripe account. And once I logged in through this interface, it downloaded the different membership levels that I had created inside of Stripe. And then I could decide which ones are displayed on the form by checking them off. And then what happens is, yeah, you can see how it says connected. I could disconnect and reconnect, but you get the idea. You can even create a sandbox mode, so you can actually like pretend to sign up for your service and make sure that it all works the way it's supposed to. Then on the front end, this is basically how it looks. And then when somebody fills it in, all this information goes to Stripe. So when someone fills out this form, when they hit submit, when they hit register, I get an email from Jotform saying, here's your form submission. And then I also get an email from Stripe saying, we have a new customer, you got $99. And so now I have those living in both places. And I will tell you while I move to Stripe, just to show you how it works on that end, that I used to do this through PayPal, which is easier in the sense that with PayPal, you don't have to create this extra form and you don't have to pay somebody, like I'm paying Jotform. You can definitely do it for free anyway, but with PayPal, I can just create a link. So I can just make a link and you push that button and it takes you right to the subscription within PayPal. And so that's the dead simple, easiest way to collect money from people. But the catch with PayPal is that you have like no control over it. You can basically cancel someone's subscription or refund them, but that's it. Whereas with Stripe, you have a lot more control over like who you're working with and what they're like what you charge them and things like that. So like for example, we're just looking at Kelly's. I don't know if I'm sharing too much by showing you the back end of my business, but I think this is fine. Right, so like she has this mastermind subscription. The mastermind subscription is a product, or it's like it's a level of service that I'm offering, and this is her membership. So then I can do something like, I forget if I can modify the pricing plan. Yeah, I can change her to a different level or something like that. So it's easier than like sometimes somebody wants to change up their relationship to your membership. And in PayPal, what we would have to do when we were running New Work City, Singular, the co-working space, was we had to actually cancel their PayPal membership and then have them rejoin as a new member. And that would run into all kinds of problems as far as amortizing or and syncing up. So with Stripe, you get a lot more control over that stuff. But I will say PayPal has the awesome advantage of if you have a PayPal account, you could just go in there, make a subscription button, and then have a URL, and then just email that URL to someone, and they can start giving you money right away. So it's a nice other thing that you can do.
So Tony, you also said that you use Jotform, but basically my website is WordPress, so there's probably a WordPress plugin I can use instead of Jotform.
Yeah, and I'm not in love with Jotform, so if you find something that's good, I know with WordPress, Contact Form 7 is probably one of the more popular ones. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Contact Form 7. And I believe they also have kind of a premium version that that will connect with Stripe, pretty similar to what I just showed you. I'm not 100%.
So basically, it's kind of interesting. Like,
go ahead.
It's kind of interesting. Like I was in computers, whatever. I have a degree in computer science, like from ages and ages ago, and then I got out of the field. I became a therapist. But it's kind of interesting the way things go these days. I mean, you use WordPress and then you pay for these plugins and you're kind of like putting things together yourself. It's kind of interesting, really.
Yeah, well, it's lowering the barrier to people who don't know how to code, right? Where right. In theory, any one of us can do this without actually knowing any code. You could, if you want to code, I mean, Stripe has an API, and part of what makes Stripe so powerful is that it's very well documented and very well made for developers. So you could code up your own system for this. It's just, especially considering that you're only a few weeks out, just plug and play.
Exactly. Thank you.
I will say the part of why I think it's worth us talking about this is because managing the tech stack for your co-working space is a constant source of potential confusion and challenges. I always struggle with, I'm never happy with my stack. There's always something I want it to look better. I want it to work better. There's just always something I'm missing. So I think we all have to be aspiring to find that sweet balance of good enough that we can run our business on it for now versus, wanting to continually make it better.
And you know, hey Penny, you know something that I wish I had done when we were developing our tech stack was just to pay the monthly fees for a quarter. I signed up for annual for like everything because you know you save however much but then when we wanted to change, I had already invested, like, so we've changed our software, we've changed our payment integration, we've changed our form builder, and I have all these like annual subscriptions to these things. So like you'll pay a little bit more at first to go on the monthly subscription, but then when you know it works for you, you can upgrade and lock into that annual membership. And I think just having that flexibility while you're developing what the technology of your space looks like is a huge asset.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you
great feedback.
Yeah, I'm a fan of, like test until you know that you've got the direction that you feel best about, right? But Penny, kudos to you for not going with the co-working software and listening to the needs of your business. It sounds like based on what you're needing that the team up software makes a lot of sense. And you can see also how now we're creating a bit of a stack and there's a business process behind it. So when someone, let's say, if you went through WordPress, you've got some form software that connects to Stripe. So now when someone signs up, it's because they sign up through a form on your website. Money is handled. Great. You now get an email and you can automate some of the processes there. But for example, you probably can't automate getting someone into the team up interface. So now your business process is as soon as you see an email come in from your form, you get their email address. Now you have a sequence of events that you follow of, okay, as soon as somebody joins in, I open up these 3 tabs, right? I open up, the discussion group tab. I open up the team up tab. I open up something else, and I go paste, and add, and then they get into the thing, which is what I do when someone joins this group. When someone joins, I have a pretty complicated sequence. I add them to Google Calendar for this meeting. I add them to the Google Group. I add them to the co-working toolkit, which I share via Google Drive. I add them to Slack, and then I put them in my own internal spreadsheet, which I could probably automate. Anytime it's like adding it to a spreadsheet, you can always automate that. But it's like I get it down to a science where it's just all those things, and I send the welcome email manually to them when they join. So yeah, once you have like that procedure in mind, then you just know this is what we do. And ideally you document that so that maybe one day it doesn't have to be you who's doing it.
Well, so then the guy locally with the co-working space, he also uses Trello for project and task management. And so I haven't tried Trello yet, but apparently you can have all these different kinds of boards, and one of them is going to be an onboarding board, and you have all the tasks there, and then you put in Penny, and then you can check mark the ones that you've actually done. So I'm considering that too.
Yeah.
I have to say, just having very recent experience with this, we talked about it last week, how my community coordinator had resigned. And then my father passed away on Tuesday. And so all week, there was no staff at the co-working space. And then the executive team of the nonprofit that the co-working space is managed or like umbrellaed under had to come in. And today is my first day back. And everyone's like, your systems are so great. That's so what? Like everything was so well laid out. And I was like, I just got that done, people. Like if this happened 3 weeks ago, y'all would have been effed with a capital F. But so I just, I want to say, I feel like this group really encouraged me to get those systems in place, and the resources from you, Tony, really helped me to get to prioritize operations and documented systems. So thank you.
Well, what systems do you put in place?
Sorry,
what was that, Sophie?
What were the systems you put in place? On
onboarding a new member, there's just a Google Doc where like every action has a link to and then add them to the contact list, and then there's a link to the word contact list is embedded to the Excel sheet where that is, and just exactly what Tony's talking about, just laid out in a way that is more directional
Right.
like, should somebody need to do this, take action on this? So there was a few times when my boss reached out to me for a couple passwords and things like that. But other than that, he said that it was pretty good. So
Great.
I'm so sorry for your loss, Tanya.
oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Can we all give Tanya a big virtual hug right now? Just take a hug.
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
Glad that the work that you did could serve you so
Yeah.
immediately. That's
Yeah.
good. Any tips, Tanya, in terms of other people documenting their processes? So, for example, Penny's considering Trello, and she's thinking about, how to create an onboarding process. I guess this is a question for everybody in the group is, anything that you would recommend as far as how you go about creating that process and refining it.
So it's interesting because we're doing the makerspace now, right? So I pretty much have to develop a whole new, not totally new, but I'm starting a new project, and I'm literally just going to have a Google Doc that's open, and I'm going to spend half an hour at the end of the day just thinking about any systems that I created that day, and just to have something to start, because I started from scratch. Literally the entire operations of the space was in my head. And that, had I been diligent about documenting stuff from the beginning, and I'm sure anyone who's opened a space, we're all pretty new space management operators here can attest, if you don't keep track of the systems you're creating from the beginning, it's a huge undertaking to document it. And we have such a great resource, your operations manual. I literally started there, and I was like, okay, I did a find and replace from Newark City's to ground floor co-working space. I'm like, all right, we're started, people. And that, use those resources, right? My boss was like, this is incredible. I was like, I know. I totally stole your thunder, Tony.
Good. No, that's what we're here. That's what we're here for. That's one of the products that I sell as a standalone product because it's that useful. So, if you guys want to use that document in particular in the toolkit, it's under operations. It's the employee manual. It's a great fill in the blank. I would say that the other way you can do it, or you could do this in parallel, as Tanya mentioned, it's such a valuable lesson, is literally just start with a blank doc. And my employee at my co-working space created this because we didn't have a lot of things documented, and it drove her nuts because there'd be somebody who was a member, but he was paying a different way than everybody else, and we knew, but she didn't know. And she's like, okay, I'm writing this down. It's all documented somewhere. And it can start out as a big, just an empty document that's unorganized. But then over time, you'll realize, oh, there's some common categories here. So you can reorganize the notes into headers. So you can say, okay, this is, onboarding process. This is opening process. This is supplies. This is finances. This is, weird exceptions to the rules, and those become your headers that you start filling in. But the most important,
code to the dumpster, right?
The code to the dumpster, exactly. And this is the thing that you don't want someone texting you frantically about when they desperately need it, when you aren't available, right? Yeah. So everything you put in that document makes your life a lot easier. So anybody who doesn't have this, start it maybe even before you open the space. You can start with the basics of, some things, some constructs that you do have. And then once you have your space open, definitely be documenting it. And you can be using this to refine your processes too. So even if you've already got this document ready to go, whoever's sitting at the front desk should have, as part of their procedure, keep this tab open. And we talked about this on a previous call. Keep this tab open, and that's where you put anything that you didn't find documented previously, or any updates to, procedures that haven't happened yet. And then you, as the manager, can have a place to go and review that and integrate it into your more established documentation, if that makes sense.
And I'd love to hear input from other people too, because as I said, the makerspace is launching. So we're going to do it again, and it's going to be a different a bit different. So
yeah, if anyone else has anything to add, let's take another couple minutes on that. And then I'd like to go back to what Kristen had mentioned about using Meetup and promotion and kind of the strategy behind that. So we'll transition to that in a moment. Does anybody else have anything they want to share as far as the documenting and onboarding process? I know kind of Penny started this conversation and now she has gone invisible mode. So I don't know if she's still in the room or not, but anything else?
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
Yeah, about I'm struggling with at the moment. I mean, hi everybody. I think I've joined New York City's this group for like 2 hours. I got really busy, you know, trying to get this done. My co-working space name is going to be One Village, and is co-working and childcare in Houston. Because I'm a mom and I don't have the support system, which I'm creating for other moms, I cannot operate by myself. I know that. So I'm trying to partner with people to operate for me. And also I'm starting a school for, for infants and toddlers. So that's a big undertaking. So I'm partnering with other people to operate for me. And I'm trying to find a place and get the economics to all work out. I'm struggling with build out costs. I had some people from the construction industry that I know that I partner with as investor. And I have my numbers, like anywhere between 60 to 90 square feet for interior. And as I was doing more research on the local sites that are available, I started, come across numbers that are more like around $120 to $145 per square feet. And that sort of like set me back. And I just want to know, ask around people that have done bigger co-working spaces on the side of like north of 7,000 square feet, between 7 and 15,000 square feet. And they've had to like do all the interior. If there's anyone in this group, what are their numbers? So that's a question I'm posting out there. If you want to answer through the chat, I don't want to like derail people, but I had that burning thing. I want to post out there. I don't know what's the best way to post it. Sorry, yeah, I just sort of.
Sophia, what I'm thinking is that we can, because I want to have time for us to talk about what Kristen had brought up, and right. I have this in my business model template, at least an estimator. But I'll just tell you really quickly right now that the industry standards are between $15 to $25 per square foot for you're estimating your build out costs. And so that's essentially
$25 per square feet. But that's like after you have subdivided everything, right? After you created all the offices that you needed and everything, right?
I don't remember exactly whether it was before or after that. I think it's including that.
1.5 to 2.5.
Correct.
Right.
Between less fancy and more fancy.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and if anyone has any thoughts on this, please, if you can drop me a chat, I would really appreciate it. And that's it. I'm gonna mute.
All right, thanks, Sophie. You got it.
Just Sophie, when I was putting my financial model together, my build out cost was I'm here in Denver, and my build out cost was estimated at $54 a square foot.
Mm-hmm.
That number came from the Office of Economic Development for my state. So I'm wondering if you were able to get on to your state's. I'm sure your state has something publicly available that tells you what the averages are.
Mm.
When you said $100, I mean, I would have had a heart attack too if I heard that number.
Yeah.
But so I'm wondering if maybe we're not talking about the same thing, or if we're wondering where those numbers
is when they give you
from.
Like, I mean, if you take out the air conditioning, you take out $20 per square feet, but this is like from after they've given you a room, let's say a 7,000 square feet room with walls, but no floor. You have to do some of the ceiling, the AC redistribution, and all the interior subdivisions for the co-working space, plus FF&E, meaning build like furniture, lighting, and all that. Wow.
Yeah, so the numbers get a lot more solid once you actually are looking at a specific space, and then you can get estimates from contractors. And some of those contractors are going to ask for way more than what you need to spend. I know the last time I worked on a build out in Boulder with a space I was working with there, that they had to go to like 5 or 6 different contractors, and eventually they found someone who was willing to give them a reasonable price. But the first few they're used to corporate clients that have big budgets, and
Right.
and they pad the numbers, right? They give you some pretty big numbers. So yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, I'll just tell you real quick. I did 5,000 feet, and we had to I don't want to say gut renovate, but we had to do some pretty heavy renovations and furnish and all that, and we spent about $100,000. And that was for a low end build out. So just to give you an idea, and that's $20 a square foot, right?
But did you have to subdivide? You just did co-working. You didn't do private offices.
We had to build all the conference rooms and meeting rooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good. Yeah, thanks for that. It's much more encouraging.
Cool. Yeah, and Jen just mentioned in the chat she had about 75K for 6,000 feet. I'm going to say Jen probably started off with a better space, so you didn't have to do as much. Like, actually, I don't know. Maybe you just get better prices in Chicago.
We had to, my landlord did give me a really good price. He was also the GC, and he used his own crew, so that saved a lot of money. Took a lot of time though. But we had to build a kitchen. We had to build 2 bathrooms. That was the biggest expense. They actually had to dig for that. And then, throwing up walls, we had to carve out the offices. So that was some stuff. We had to put in new, you can't really see, new windows. So yeah, we had to do some like complicated stuff, but the fact that my landlord was the GC, I think helped a lot.
Right. You had 6,000 square feet, right?
Yeah, and he amortized that into the rent, so I didn't have to. I didn't have to pay for it.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Well, I do have to pay for it, but not up front.
That's great.
Without interest or anything? Not with an additional cost on it?
No, there is an additional cost because when you look at it over the course of 5 years, I'm going to end up paying about, I did the math at one point. I want to say I'm going to end up paying like $110,000 for this. And originally our budget was 60. His accounting method is largely shoebox based. So he doesn't know exactly how much he spent, but he thinks it's around 75,000.
Well, you're essentially getting a loan, right? And so
yeah, kind of, yeah.
At the end of the day,
it was worth it though.
So okay, so I think this should be good in terms of build out. But if anybody wants to keep that conversation going, Sophia, I think this should get you on your way for now.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. Kristen, I wanted to talk a little bit about what you brought up around the fact that you started a Meetup and you now have that as a potential promotion channel. I have been a Meetup organizer since 2007. I haven't been using it in the last few years, but it was a pretty important channel for me pre-launch, specifically because the whole thing with Meetup's kind of like Amazon in that if you're a seller on Amazon, in that they are taking your money in exchange for providing you access to their network. So Meetup has a huge mega mailing list of people that are looking for stuff to do. And by using their platform and paying to use their platform, they're going to promote you to their people. And so it's a marketing channel, right? And it's also a platform in the sense that you can use that to run and manage your event programs. And they have some pretty handy, pretty sophisticated features in the sense that you can charge dues, you can have a sponsor slot, you can have recurring events, and the fact that when someone joins your Meetup group, they're a member means that you can promote to them, right? the thing that the two kind of major trade-offs with Meetup is, one, they control the email. You can't get their email address through Meetup. So if you want to capture people's email addresses, you have to do that through other means. And I think you can do that through, like, you can ask people questions when they RSVP to an event, and you can ask them what their email is, right? Or something along those lines. You just have to be careful because certain things, there's privacy where, like, if you can ask someone when they join what their email is, like you can ask people questions, but I think that's publicly visible. So you don't necessarily want people's emails to be everywhere. But anyway, so that's like one thing you got to work around. And then the other thing is, and this is really the main thing I want to talk about when it comes to Meetup specifically, and I want to be delicate about how I say this, but the people that you will get through Meetup is like having your doors to the storefront on the street, in the sense that you will get anybody and everybody coming through Meetup. And so that's good in the sense that the barrier is really low and the reach is really wide. But what you'll find is that if you aren't careful about how you manage your expectations as far as who you're getting, you'll find that you might get some people who aren't exactly a great cultural fit. And everybody who's ever run any public facing events, by the way, Derek's camera right now just looks so epic, and I have to say it feels really cool. Everybody who's run public facing events for long enough knows that there's that guy, and that guy is the guy that shows up to every event, and he kind of annoys everybody, and he eats all your food and doesn't leave when the event is over, and and is maybe a little bit socially kind of like, like doesn't understand all the social graces. And those people have driven me so mad, so insanely, like it's so bad. It's so bad. And it's, what's funny is I don't want to get too hard on people who play this role, but like they just create so much trouble, and without being bad, they're just like the way that they latch on to people, and they never go away. I went to a public event last week that my friend ran, and there was a guy I vaguely recognized there. And then once he started talking, I was like, oh my God, I know how I remember you. I haven't seen you in 5 years, and you're still coming to every free event in town, So you just have to be aware that could be a dynamic that can happen, and not to dissuade you from doing it, but to manage the expectation of the meetups that you do are either going to be public events where it's going to be designed to catch as many people as possible, provide them value, have it be really managed in terms of the way the program works, so that even somebody off the street, they can come in, they can have a good experience, everyone else can have a good experience, but that's it, and then they leave. Or you have some other barrier to entry for that meetup where there's a cost, or it's curated in some way so that only specific people would go to it. In terms of
so that's the point of these, is that they're going to be classes. So it's going to be like marketing for therapists. So I don't know how many dudes off the street that aren't interested in therapy or marketing would. I mean, I guess it could happen because, again, it will be public information. But
okay, that might be fine. Okay, I'd say that the way that Meetup is designed is that the primary use case of Meetup that they have in mind is that there's some kind of program that is less specific, that's more general interest, to give the people who are interested in that topic a way of connecting to you. That is maybe like a little bit more open-ended. It might be that what you're doing is that, and I just don't know the specifics. So it might be fine. But what I wanted to share was that regardless of what you do on Meetup, that it probably is going to be towards the front of your invitation funnel. So because it's open to the public, however you're inviting people to come in, we like that barrier to be low. Right? We want people to be able to come in and find you without knowing the specifics. But then what we want is for then people who you meet there, who kind of you think make the cut and end up wanting, you want them to be more involved, is that there's another thing that's not on Meetup that you invite people to, and that's where there's some
I see.
curation, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because even in these specific workshops, you'll find people who come to them who are philosophically aligned with you, but then you might even find some people there who drive you kind of crazy too.
Right.
So we want to,
yeah. Did you just say that a solution to that is that you can have the event in Meetup, but not really being able to sign up, but provide a link to somewhere else where you invite them? Is that what you were saying?
I would say, yeah, like the barrier to the next level of involvement, at the very least, is money, in the sense that, you know, hey, anybody can come to my Meetup for free, but if you want to be a member of my space, you got to sign up and pay a monthly rate. And most of that guys don't pay, right? So that filters them pretty well. There are, I've still had plenty of people over the years who do pay, and they still are a pain in my ass, but you know, we can work with that once we get there. That's one barrier. But yeah, Sophie, I guess what I'm saying is, like, you can have certain programs that are, you know, kind of behind that member wall where, and depending on who you are, for Kristen, it might be that it's an application process and it's a very specific limited group. So Kristen has the right to say no. You know, that's just one way to approach membership. I had such a strong philosophical approach of not wanting to be too cool for anybody and not wanting to deny anybody. And it's probably because I grew up super uncool. And so I didn't want to be the guy to shut somebody out the way that I was shut out when I was growing up from the cool kids. But I paid for that because I dealt with a very you know, rogues gallery of members. And we managed that, and it was fine. But you know, it's a decision that you make about how exclusive you want to be.
Yeah, I'm thinking exactly about that, because as part of our launch of our we're doing a phase approach, and the phase one is to open a school that we'll open in January while we look for our real estate, and then have meetups. Well, have events where we have co-working and childcare. So we'll have in the site, we have pop-up co-working event with classes and learning and stuff for mompreneurs, and childcare on site. So that's why it worries me, like what you're saying, like, you know, anybody to come, you know, when it comes to children and infants, you want to be extra careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting line, Sophie. And I think you'll have to feel it out as you go. But what you may actually want to do is to create, this is where we're starting to go, is that you can have layers of curation even within your membership. So you could say, for the basic level of membership, whatever that means to you, anyone can sign up. If you can pay for it, it's yours. Obviously, everyone has to follow the code of conduct. Everyone has to be ethical and, you know, treat each other respectfully. But generally speaking, that barrier can be pretty low. But then for the next layer of, for example, for me, if somebody were going to have a dedicated desk or an office where they actually have their stuff in the space, that might be an area where I say, look, that's actually very limited. It's a specific program. I'm only working with certain people. I'm going to help them grow their businesses and whatever. That is an exclusive thing. And so I can say, look, anyone could be a member of my space, blah, 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 blah. Bye, Jen. But if you want to have a resident membership where you have your desk here and whatever, that's like a thorough application process, and we only let people in quarterly and whatever. So we make that feel a lot more exclusive while still being inclusive in terms of people joining the group. And you can say, look, like the people who are at that level of membership in our space are super critical, and it's not a matter of good or bad. It's just a matter of fit. And we want to make sure that we are bringing, you know, people that we can provide the most value to by having only people at that level who are really good cultural fit. When it comes to you and the business you're talking about, we can create that division. And for the daycare and the people who are at that more full-time level, you can play with what the curation is going to be at that level, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, you got it. And Kristen, I'm realizing that what I was thinking now is that whatever entry-level programming you have other than the workshop, if you're doing like a monthly happy hour or a breakfast session or whatever that, like anything that's just totally free and open, that you would probably promote that to your Meetup group. And so that's kind of what I'm picturing.
Yeah, so that's the point of the Meetup group isn't necessarily to have people sign up for space, because I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
It's just to start holding these events. So these events they're being held at other locations. So I don't feel like I'm going to be marrying any of the people that are coming to these events. It's more just to get the name out there, to create value, and to spark interest for them to come and sign up for the space. Of course, that would be an application process, and there might even be, I'd even considered interviews as well to make sure that they're a good fit for the space. But that's, again, down the road.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Cool. Any other questions coming up for you while we're on this topic, Kristen, or anybody else, I guess?
Unless you have other ideas on how to promote these types of events, anything that's worked for you, or if anybody else has ideas on what's worked to get your name out there, to get people to show up.
Yeah.
One thing I've done is I just started collecting the email addresses of any therapist I ever heard about from anyone. And that seems to have been helpful. So I use Psychology Today and email every single therapist on there. Yeah. Psychology Today, it's a pain in the butt. You can't capture their email addresses. So unless they reply to your email, you actually can't capture it. Okay. But then, there's a local Facebook group it's called Erie Regional Psychotherapy Alliance, right? So it is for local psychotherapists. Okay. And so they've allowed me to post things on there. No. I'd be pretty tempted to go to any kind of CEU that's offered, continuing education, and set up a little desk there, or put your cards there or something, or see if they'll let you make an announcement at the beginning.
That'd be amazing. That's a great idea. Thanks, Penny. Yeah, no, sure. And that's really great. I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah. Okay. If you wouldn't mind, if anything comes up and you have time, if you wouldn't mind.
I wrote this up for somebody else and sent it to them. So when I get back today, awesome. I'll try to send you the same email I sent to somebody else. It was just kind of brainstorming about what I've done. Okay. To start to just collect as many emails as possible. Sure. Because then, partly I want people to sign up for Thrive as members, but also we're going to be offering continuing education and lunch and learns and all that stuff. So even if they never become members, I still want a robust email list so that I can get in touch with them.
That'd be great. Okay, great. Thanks, Penny.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, and I'll just add, so absolutely the speaking, the list of the people that you've connected with, just hitting that up, making personal invitations to every person that you really want there. Like the first 5 or 10 attendees of any event you do for the near future are going to be people that you've personally invited that have to be there. So we don't want to leave this to guesswork. And it's such an easy pitfall to fall into of like promoting to the channels to get people to show up. And especially at this early stage, the first people that come are going to be people you told them, hey, you got to be here. And they said yes. And then you texted them the day before and you said, I'm excited for you to be there tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing you. So that guarantees you that you got your first 5 or 10. Those are people you're personally going to know.
Mm-hmm. No, that's great. And what Penny was saying about Psychology Today, so all local therapists anywhere usually advertise on Psychology Today. So I already have I can already get a list of that. And then because this industry is regulated, I actually have a list of every single registered psychotherapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, and massage therapist and social worker in the state. Mm-hmm. And I can even sort that by zip code and even make direct phone calls if I get there. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. And I'll also say asking people to ask people, especially your speaker. If you have a speaker, hey, who can you invite to this thing? But even the attendees, if you have kind of those biggest fan excited people, really easy to just say like, hey, who else do you think should be here? Or what other lists or groups do you think should know about this? Because a lot of times somebody's a member of a private Facebook group that you've never even heard of. So if you just say like, who else do you think should be here? What other groups should know about it? Sometimes somebody will post on your behalf. And a friend posting on your behalf is the best because it's not you promoting your thing. It's someone else promoting your thing, and people are more likely to trust that third party. Empower your friends. You guys rock. Thank you for the great call. It's been great chatting. I'll talk to you in a week.
Thanks, Tony. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.